Pornologist.
Pornologist. So that is a new word you should all learn today. Today we're going to be talking, he's a pornologist. MashaAllah. So Sheikh, just before we go into our discussion proper, from my research on what you've been doing so far, I realized that you were actually a musician before. Was that true?
Unfortunately.
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 So was that a bad habit you had to leave, and what made you leave it?
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Well, yes, it was part of my life, and by the way, I'm proud to have gone through that life because I've learned too much that now I can go back and say, alhamdulillah, that Allah had put me into such a lifestyle that when I look at myself, alhamdulillah, now I can actually compare between both lives and appreciate what I have now. And appreciate that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not let me die in that lifestyle back in the days. Because I have seen friends of mine dying, literally dying, because they went into drugs and so on and so forth. So when I look at myself and realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had actually taken me out of this life and brought me into what I'm doing now, I feel like it was a must path for me to appreciate what I have now.
MashaAllah.
So yeah, music, I'm not here to tell you music halal or haram or anything, but I could touch on how music have affected my life negatively in the sense that whenever, for example, I used to be into music, I wouldn't pray. I wouldn't bother to go to the mosque. I wouldn't bother to read the Quran because music was the addiction of that time for me. So enough said, right? If something took you out of your main purpose of existence, and that is to worship Allah, then why would you actually live anymore? And this is what happened when my idol, the singer that I was following in Hong Kong City, had committed suicide. He has everything. He had everything that I wish to have: fame, money, everything. Yet he ended up his life by throwing himself off a building. And immediately I was like, I wanted to be like him, yet he ended up his life this way. Couldn't music give him
the serenity,
happiness,
the happiness,
peace of mind? Couldn't money give him all that? So I realized that there must be something wrong. And because I realized that fame and wealth is also moving away from my sight after this incident, I became depressed. So I went into a phase of depression. All of this because I thought that music was that path to happiness, and it ended up to be something miserable.
Going back to the topic for today, which is pornography. It's quite alarming, the number of people or youth that watch pornography,
yes.
Even married couples as well. I get married couples in my office that come and tell me, Shuraim, I'm married, I was addicted to pornography, and I thought when I get married, I'm going to stop watching pornography, but it still continues. Can you talk a bit about pornography?
Can I take you back to music quickly?
Yeah, sure.
If you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
Because this question is always keep coming. How to quit music? And I remember one of my friends, he gave me the best tip in the world. And my wife added to that later on. So the tip was, gather all your music into one folder. You guys have music on your computers or something like that. Gather all those files into one folder. Name it whatever you want to name it, and put them into that folder, and then go right-click and delete. And then the computer will ask you the most important question in the world. Are you sure you want to delete? That's Shaitan asking you now. And this is how, when I decided to quit music, I received a contract from that company that we used to work with $50,000 appearance in a scene to sing in a movie. On that same day that I decided to quit music. So this is how Shaitan works. He opens opportunities for the haram to thrill you, to make you, excited about it, but it's all related to the dunya. So if you decided to choose the dunya, it's all up to you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually said that if you want this dunya, we will give it to you. But how long are you going to enjoy this dunya? 60 years, 70 years, 80 years? Let us be hopeful. 100 years? After that, where are you going to go? So this is the point. Now let us jump into this hot topic of pornography. Number one, I really admire you to bring this into Nigeria. I know that it's a taboo. Everywhere I go in the Muslim world, they would say it's a taboo. Let's talk about something else. So I really admire everyone who takes this to the public because it's super prevalent. It's something that had reached an epidemic proportion that we can't even comprehend the number of people who are not only watching, but who are being affected negatively by their access to porn. According to the latest statistics of one website, so one website, every year they give us a review. They're very dedicated to their business, pornographic website. I'm talking about one single website. And how many of you can actually guess how many websites of that nature exist in our world today? Anyone can guess? Can give me a number? By the billions. You can't even imagine how many websites of that nature are in existence. Now we are talking about one website of those millions, billions of websites. Every year they come up with statistics of how many people have visited their site, how many daily visits, how many visits per minute, which countries are on the top, and so on and so forth. According to their statistics for 2019, and I want you to write that number down. Is there anyone good in maths here? Anyone is mathematician? None of the Nigerians are in math? Is this university not for maths?
Any person good in mathematics? We have a gift for you, perhaps.
Do you guys understand my English? Shall I speak Africana? So, they told us that in the year 2019 only, there appear on their website, listen well, 42 billion visits. 42 billion visits on a single website in a single year. That is like, if you just think about it, and they said last year it was 38 billion. And they said it's 90 million visits per day. That's the population of 3 countries combined, Canada, Australia, and Poland. Imagine those 3 countries decided to watch porn on one single website on a particular day. So this is the massive number of people seeking out porn always. And the number is on the rise. It was 3 years ago, it was 28 billion visits on that particular website. I don't want to mention, of course, the name of the website. But those who wish to know more details, come and talk to me, inshallah, after the show. But this is the problem. It's on demand. And the problem with the Muslim community is that we always bury our head in the sand and pretend that we don't have a problem. 44 billion, 42 billion. Do you think that Muslims are excluded? Do you think that worry? It's by the thousands every single day. By the thousands every single day. And the problems that are associated with the addiction is even unimaginable. I'll tell you one story. The latest one. A brother, married brother, he decided to handcuff his wife, carry her and throwing her in his car trunk, drive her into an isolated area and literally raped her. And he brought her back home crying. He was crying. Because at the moment of, performing this act, he was out of control. And when he was questioned, later on she took him to authorities, but when he was questioned, he referred his behavior to what he used to watch on pornographic website. The type of imagery that you watch constantly, it will sooner or later impact your behavior. That's why when we watch any what is called innocent movies or sitcom or TV series and all that, we behave like them. We act like them. We wish to be them. True or false? True. How many of you have watched a movie where there was a bank robbery? Anyone? Did you see a movie where a bank was robbed by a group of thieves? How many of you were praying, or not praying, like hoping that the thieves will run away with the money? Yes? So those kind of imagery or movies, they make us feel sympathy for the wrong. So when you watch porn, you think that these performances are actually real. You think that this is what you want to do with your spouse. And when you start acting out these walayadu billah acts, then you start creating problems in your life. Your wife don't like what you're doing. Your husband is not satisfied of your body, and so on and so forth. Problems arise. 65% or 56% if I'm not mistaken, and that was like many years ago, of divorce cases in America alone happens because one or both partners are addicted to pornography. So subhanAllah, so it's massive. I don't know if I start talking about this.
SubhanAllah, Sheikh, we just jumped into the couples. The problem is there's a lot of young individuals who are addicted to this, right? They want to stop, right? They want to they have the desire to stop watching pornography, but they keep going to it every day by day. Like, today I make the istighfar, astaghfirullah, ya Allah, I don't want to watch this again. But same time the next day you find them doing it again, and they keep getting regretful, feeling a lot of remorse about it. What is the way out of this?
All right, so that's the description of addiction. So addiction is a cycle that you go into with actions that are undesirable to you as an addict, as a person who doesn't want the act, but you keep going back again and again, just like a rat in the lab. They do this. They put a rat in a maze, and then at the end, two like entrances. One has the rat, and the end has a cheese. So what happened? The rat goes into the maze until he eats a bite or two. He gets full. He go back into the exit side where he hoped to exit. He find it closed. He remains there until he gets hungry, and then he go back again to buy the cheese. And that cycle goes again and again until the rat literally dies, because the cheese would finish and the rat would keep going into that cycle. The journey became the addiction, you see. So the problem is, istighfar alone is not sufficient. It's important, but it's not sufficient. Prayers alone is not sufficient. It is important, don't neglect it, but it's not enough. It's not a cure for the addiction. Now we have to differentiate between habits and addiction. We can talk about that, but addiction is something very compulsive. That once it kicks in, you are out of control. Many people would say something similar to what you just described. Others, they would say that we would be on our task, on our homework, and all of a sudden, we just open a tab, and there we go. We neglected our most important task for the sake of our temporary pleasure. You see? That's addiction. Addiction involves craving. You will be even looking at your relatives with different look. Now, your question, the way out. The way out, actually, and this is the difficulty with the problem that we're dealing with. The way out would always be different from one person to another. There are some people who became addicted to pornography because of what they have seen in the past. Perhaps they were sexually harassed when they were young, and as a result, they became very curious, and then they ended up on porn. Now, if I, as a counselor or as a coach, if I don't deal with this trauma, with the root cause that led to the problem, there will be no way out. That's why it's important to find a professional coach, a professional counselor to ask you questions about what happened in the past. What is the history behind addiction? And if the expert spotted some mental illnesses, some trauma, some experience that affected on the person, then he must deal with that problem first before going into the addiction. But if it was out of curiosity and friends exchanging tapes or links or this and that, then now there are a few tips that are essential for everyone. Number one, are you ready, inshallah? Number one, don't be alone. Never be behind closed doors. Pornography and its addictive nature loves isolation. Once you're alone, and this is something Islamic, yeah? So in Islam we say what? Once you're alone, who is the second? And shaitan is there for what? To massage you? To provide you with flowers and chocolate? He's there to, encourage you to do the wrong. And this is, if you're already addicted and you know that you have that problem, do not ever be alone. I have a client who, after the program, we gave him a sheet to fill up, and we told him in the sheet, you come up with a theme for the next 3 months. So the next 3 months, you have to come up and live up to a particular theme that you will decide. So he decided with a theme called Alone No More. Alone No More. That was his motto in life for 3 months. Today, that was how many years ago? I don't remember. It's over 5 years ago, I remember. Over 5 years ago, he was given a slogan to live by for 3 months. Up until now, this is his slogan in life. Alone no more. He decided never, ever to stay alone by himself at all. He would study in the open, in the public. He would go outside with his friends. He will always keep the door open if he's in his private bedroom. He will never remain alone. And now, mashallah, he's a successful businessman. He do not have a private office. Although he's the boss of the company, he sits with his employees. He decided he designed this alone no more. He framed it everywhere, wherever he looked. I said, but mashallah, you've been sober and away from this lifestyle for over 5 years. Why don't you now, take out these paintings? He created painting for this slogan. He said, this is the one thing that works for me. I'm never gonna let go. And this is one of the problems that we fall into. Sometimes when we remain sober for a month, for two, Ramadan comes, mashallah, people quit. So they remain sober for 1 month. You think that you are a hero now. You're strong. You've been cured. And this is a mistake. Maintain that lifestyle if you want to maintain sobriety. Yeah? So there are a lot of tips. Another tip is to seek out a professional counselor. You will never be able to break free from the chain of porn addiction on your own. That's nearly impossible. Some people were successful in breaking free from this addiction on their own, but the majority could not. So seek out help. If you are a husband, tell your wife, be brave enough to tell her that I have a problem with pornography, help me, become my accountability partner, here are my passwords on my devices.
Sheikh,
be transparent.
Just to cut you short on that, when you talk about meeting a counselor, what's so for instance now you're in an environment where there are no counselors, there are no people that can talk to you. If you meet the imam of the masjid to counsel you, he'll be like, haram, you're going to Jahannam for being addicted to pornography. Do you advise that you talk to your friend about it?
So what I will say is find someone whom you trust. So this is the beginning. This is the beginning to do something positive about your problem. Is to find someone that you trust, find someone who can at least check on you from time to time, to get some guidance and some encouragement. Like, some people when they wanted to go to the gym, they go in congregation, in groups, so that they encourage and motivate one another. Similarly, if you want to come out from that path, then you have to find someone to help you. Secondly, inshallah, I advise imams and mashayikh to please have a look at what's happening around you to understand the size of the problem that we're dealing with. And I believe once the mashayikh will realize that we're dealing with a monster, they will, inshallah, ease out their advice to the Muslims. They will stop, this haram game or haram threat, and they will start, inshallah ta'ala, giving an advice. For now, we need to educate ourselves, and we need to seek out those groups who are now more qualified to help out, and at least let us get the ball rolling. And then things will become more, inshallah, professional.
Inshallah, just before we go to the audience to take some few questions, Sheikh spoke about something really important, about meeting someone who is your friend that you trust to talk to. Quite unfortunate today, we live in a society whereby we don't even trust ourselves, and we don't even have true friends. And the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Al-mar'u ala dini khalili falyanzur ahadukum man yuqalib. A man is in the religion of his friends, so be very careful of those whom you take as friends. So if you are careful and you are very watchful of the kind of people you keep around you, it becomes very easy for you to open up at times when you have problems. But what is the point of having a friend when you cannot even open up to them? What is the point of having someone you call your best friend if you cannot tell them your problem and they can advise you? Now, for instance, you have a dull friend, and qadar Allah, you are also dull. How will he help you? How will he assist you? He wouldn't even advise you. Rather, if you tell him, my brother, you know what? Wallah, I am addicted to pornography. He'll be like, really? You know, it doesn't matter. I don't know if you get my point, Chef. So it's really important. The kind of friends we keep around us is very important. We're going to take some few questions from the brothers, and then we come to the sisters, inshallah. And then we continue. Any questions yet from the brothers?
If you ask a question, by the way, it doesn't mean that you're addicted to pornography.
We have a brother that wants to ask a question, Brother Jabil.
When we talk about pornography, right? Can we relate pornography to masturbation? Because at the end of the day, if you're watching pornography and you're like, I'm addicted to pornography, it's not like you're addicted to coke or anything. Watching pornography leads to something. You're not watching it and like there's a pleasure. For those who do it, either they're married, they add spice to their whatever, and for those who are single, it's like a way of relieving themselves.
Thank you.
So, are they related?
Jazakallah khair. Number one, I want to comment on married men who watch porn, they also end up masturbating. It does not spice up any relationship or any intimacy. It actually destroys the intimacy completely. It leads to a condition called porn-induced erectile dysfunction. The brain becomes conditioned that sexual pleasure is attainable only through screens. So when they are with their spouses, many times they will lose erection as a result of this issue. It's called porn-induced. It's now a medical condition called porn-induced erectile dysfunction, meaning men would lose that sexual power as a result of consistently watching pornography and masturbating. So this is just a comment on spicing up sexual intimacy with spouses. It does not, it destroys it completely. There is a book called The Porn Trap. I advise you all to grab it. The Porn Trap was written by a sex therapist. I just forgot the name now, but you go and search it on Amazon or something. And that man, in the introduction of his book, he mentioned or she mentioned that as a sex therapist, people would come complaining about sexual problems in their lives, in their lives, and we used to give them an advice to go and watch porn to spice up bedtime. And they ended up having no sex whatsoever. So pornography actually kills sexual intimacy between spouses. Why? For the reason that I just mentioned, it conditions your brain to sexual pleasure through screens. So this one point.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
So I just wanted to ask if you could touch on, you said if someone should talk to open up to a friend or a professional. Not everyone has access to professionals or even are aware of professionals. It's now that the knowledge is going out. So imagine the first person you think of is a friend, a sister, your mom, your brother. So I think you should speak on how you should react when someone talks to you and opens up to you. That's where the problem lies. And people don't open up mostly. So what should you do if someone talks to you about it?
Thank you. Brilliant. Yeah. This is something that we have to discuss as well, because usually and I want to tell you something, sister. If you went to somebody and said, I wanted to open up to you, I think I'm addicted to pornography, and that person shows a reaction that is of shock, like, how could you do that? You are a Muslim, you're a hijabi. Make sure that person is also addicted. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. No, you are absolutely right. We are judgmental by nature, unfortunately. And as soon as your sin is exposed, your problem is exposed to somebody else, immediately that person who's listening thinks that he's free from other mistakes and other sins. The only difference is your sin has been known and his sins aren't. And this is what we need to learn. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, when he was approached by a man who wanted to commit zina, the Prophet did not rebuke that man. The man went to the Prophet ﷺ and he told him, Ya Rasulullah, i'dhan li biz-zina. O Messenger of Allah, allow me to commit fornication. Allow me to commit adultery. And I want you to imagine if this happened in Nigeria, or in Pakistan, or in Saudi Arabia, or in Egypt, or in any Muslim country. Imagine if I went up to a sheikh or an imam or a scholar, and I told him, please make zina halal for me. How will that person react? I asked this question to my brothers in Pakistan. I love them so much, that's why I always pick on them. He say, we will make him minced beef. I didn't even know what does that mean, but it means like they will like finish him off. But the point is, there will be a reaction, and that reaction sometimes will be strong. Believe me, sister, I was in China one day. We were praying Jum'ah, and I've noticed while we were praying, there was someone outside who is just standing there. And I was, subhanAllah, praying, but I can see him from a distance somehow moving around. I was like wondering, while I'm in the prayer, why this man is not praying with us. And subhanAllah, after we finished the prayer, it turns out that he's following a particular sect. And he was distributing those magazines. And after we finished, a brother reached me out and he said, come and talk to him, he's deviant and whatnot. Come and talk to him and advise him. I said, brother, okay, I'm coming, I'll put my shoes on. By the time I was putting my shoes on, he was beaten up. This man was beaten up by other Muslims around who just finished Salah. And I went up there, what's happening? He's deviant. So is this the way to correct people's mistake? Was this the method of the Prophet ﷺ of correcting people's mistake? So yes, I agree with you 100% that if you open up to someone, that person must respect and value that secret. You must be compassionate as much as you can and merciful as much as you can to support that person who came and entrusted you with an amana. The Prophet ﷺ said, if a man came or a person came to you and before speaking he turned to the right and turned to the left, meaning he's trying to make sure that no one is around, which means what? He doesn't want anyone to listen to this conversation except you. The Prophet said what? It becomes a trust without even telling you that this is a secret. And there is no iman for the one who betrays his trust. Remember this, if someone came to you and told you, I am addicted, I am struggling with porn, I have this issue, please help me, it becomes a trust. Do not ever belittle of that person. Do not ever look down upon that person. Look at the Prophet ﷺ, when the man asked him, allow me to commit zina, the word haram was not uttered by the Prophet ﷺ throughout the hadith. Because he knew, number one, the Prophet knew that the man knew it's haram. He's a companion, best of all generations. The Prophet realized that the man is coming because he's fed up with that problem. And the Prophet ﷺ, I say, he coached him. He asked him questions. أَتَرْضَاهُ لِأُمِّكَ? Do you like this to happen to your mother? No. To your sister? He reasoned with him. And he made dua for him. The narration states that the Prophet ﷺ placed his hand over his chest and he asked Allah, Ya Allah, remove the love of haram from his heart and so on. So we need to learn to be compassionate and extremely patient and helpful when someone come and open up to us. So thank you so much, sister, for this.
Okay. Someone asked, what if you're watching porn and masturbating,
yes,
just
so
to prevent yourself from zina?
Now, this is you see how shaitan works. They tell you masturbation is better than zina. See? When you masturbate is better than zina. When you think about it, it is. Definitely it is lesser of
Sin.
Of two evil, right? So if you committed zina, according to Imam al-Dhahabi, zina is listed in his book Al-Kaba'ir, major sin, as the 10th major sin in Islam. The 10th. He ranked it after shirk and uquq al-walidain, disobeying parents and all that, theft. Zina comes the 10th. So it's a major sin. So they say that if you masturbate, it's better. The problem with masturbation is it is addictive. Pornography, it is addictive. And addiction escalates. And this is what now I'm trying to tell our mashayikh, respected scholars, who say if you cannot quit masturbation, it's better than zina. Now, sometimes scholars will say to avoid zina, go for masturbation. The problem with this advice is that sooner or later masturbation will not be pleasurable. And those who watch porn, they will relate to it. The type of porn that you used to watch 10 years ago will never be pleasurable today. You wanted to watch something else that will excite you the same way that you experienced 10 years ago. As a result, I have a lot of clients, they will spend hours on the internet searching for the perfect video that will make them reach to that climax. So the type of porn that they used to watch is not as excited as before, so they will escalate. They will watch bizarre movies, sex with animals, bestiality, homosexuality on these movies and so on, although they themselves, they're not like gays or lesbians, they don't classify themselves as such, but they will watch these weird things because they need some doses in their brain to bring them to that pleasure. The problem with that is that even masturbation will escalate to a point that you will decide to act out what you've been watching all your life, and that would lead to zina sooner or later. So porn leads to masturbation most of the time, and excessive masturbation leads to zina at the end of the day. So we say it's better to quit it cold turkey and do your best to give up that compulsive addiction, because it will destroy you in many, many aspects of your life.
No.
Brother, don't you think knowing Allah will help in, knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help in all these problems? Because for me, I think...
Did you say, do we need Allah?
Sorry?
Did you say, do we need Allah to help us?
Yeah, I think I said, don't you think by knowing Allah...
By knowing.
Yes. It will solve a lot of problems of pornography and a lot of zunub.
Jazakallah khair. The question for those who didn't hear it, the brother said, by knowing Allah, don't you think that it would solve a lot of problems? Brother, you would be surprised to know that many of those people who are addicted to pornography are religious people. Many of them are religious. So are you suggesting that those religious people are unaware of Allah or don't know Allah? Of course they know. I know people who memorize the Quran and addicted to pornography. I know people who are leading people in salah and they are addicted. I know niqabi sisters who are addicted. The problem is not about religion here. It's a disease in the brain. Addiction is actually a brain disease. And this does not discriminate against anyone. It impacts atheists, it impacts religious people. It impacts children, it impacts teenagers, married couples. It does not spare anyone. I am saying that religious people they have more advantage of recovery than anyone on earth. Because they have that faith, and faith can move mountains, brother. It can help a lot. But it's not the only solution. And we have to mention it. Pornography addiction must be resolved and must be cured through a multi-model approach. So faith is necessary for religious people, but also experts of practical tips and tricks that were tested on so many people must be also be considered. Sometimes mental health are impacting the behavior. So they said that pornography leads to depression, but some people, they are depressed because of other events that took place in their lives which led them to pornography. So depression is the root cause. We have to deal with depression first. And the problem in our culture is that going to a psychologist is a big taboo. Sometimes it's haram. I hear people say, oh, it's haram to go to a psychologist. It's as if we're going to a magician or a fortune teller. No, it's a field of knowledge that we sometimes need to consider. And if Allah told us in the Quran to ask people who know, people who have received knowledge, then why can't we also consider mental health treatment if it is necessary and if it is proven? You see? We have to reach out to those people who have studied these fields and ask them. There is a field now today called Islamic psychology, like psychology but based on Islamic ethics and manners, eliminating any haram perhaps from other fields. So why can't we consider that if it's a proven scientific field of knowledge? Yeah? I hope that makes sense, brother. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. Just before we go to the audience, someone asked a question Is there anything like partial addiction, or am I only addicted a little, so that I don't need a help? For instance,
You said
partial addiction. Is there anything like partial addiction?
I don't know what does that mean, but it's like, let me ask you this question. If I smoke one cigarette a day for 5 years, all right? If I'm smoking a cigarette every day for 5 years, and at the same time there is another person who smoked 10 cigarettes a day for 5 years, and then another person 1 pack a day for 5 years, who's addicted and who's not? Everyone is addicted, but the addiction level is different.
It's different.
So yes, you may be not partially addicted. I would say you may be not as heavily addicted as others. Maybe you're watching every 1 week. You consider yourself partially addicted. Maybe you're watching every month. You think that you are better than many. But at the end of the day, if you have that urge, that craving that comes from time to time, and it runs in a cycle, you know what's going to happen. It's YouTube first, and then it's light porn first, and then it's hardcore, and then again, and then again. And then you promise Allah you will never go back again. You repent, you take a shower, you pray, and then you go again after a month or 2 or 3. It doesn't matter. So long as you go again into that cycle again and again, it's addiction. How heavy? You have to call me, inshallah, to evaluate your level of addiction and help you, inshallah.
I watched this sermon about how Allah has a plan for everyone, and anything bad that happens to you, it means that there's something good that's going to come out of it. So I wanted to ask, can you label this kind of calamity as Allah's plan, and does it mean that something good will come out of it eventually?
Oh, that's a very good question, Sister, mashallah. So as we know, we Muslims, we believe in the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He had planned everything ahead of time. And there is a difference, sister, between qadr and qada. So we use those two terms sometimes synonymously, but they are not exactly the same. So the qadr of Allah is the plan being written. Okay? The plan being written. That's the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But al-qada, when the plan of Allah come to existence, when that plan which been written became a reality. Okay? Once the qada took place, it is impossible to change it. It's done deal. But the qadar can change. The qadar that Allah had written and did not happen yet, that plan can be erased. And it can be erased through our dua, through our sincere supplication to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if Allah had written supposedly that someone, God forbid, would have an accident down the street, but there is a mother, sincere mother is making dua, asking Allah, Ya Allah, protect my child, Allah may lift that qadar from you. That's why the Prophet ﷺ had a beautiful hadith. He said, Al-qadar wal-du'a يعتلجان إلى يوم القيامة. Qadar and dua, they resist one another, they fight one another until the day of judgment. The qadar is coming to take effect, to happen, but the dua is pushing it back sometimes, and the dua could actually erase that qadar completely. Can you imagine the powerful dua? That's why the Prophet ﷺ said, "Ad-du'a huwa al-ibadah." Dua is worship. If you don't have a portion of dua in your daily life, that means your worship is really need to be improved. So I believe, sister, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing us through these challenges. I believe that those who have gone through that path are being tested by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The problem is sometimes we ourselves, we know that we are tested. We know that Allah is Al-Ghafur, Ar-Rahim, the most forgiving, the most merciful. Then we go with that intention. Okay, inshallah, I'm going to watch today, and then we'll ask Allah to forgive me later. Now you are acting smart. Now you think that you are smarter and wiser than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given you this as an opportunity to correct yourself and to repent and go back to Him once and for all. And if you already tried once, twice, thrice, and every time you go back to the same problem, then you have to try something else. You have to go out of your way now and do something else. And the something else that I'm telling you, along with your dua, you must have someone to tell. So briefly, sister, it might be a good thing for you, and it might be not. If you persisted with the act, walayadu billah, you might end up in the category of the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ had mentioned to Thawban radiallahu anhu arda, about dhunub al-khalawat, or the hidden sins, or those sins that are always committed behind closed doors, secretive sins. The Prophet ﷺ said, لَأَعْلَمَنَّ أَقْوَامًا مِّنْ أُمَّتِي, I know a group of people from my ummah who will come on the day of judgment with good deeds that are huge, like the size of mountains, but Allah will crush them into weightless dust, like doesn't carry any weight. So they ask why, what is the reason? So the Prophet ﷺ explained that those people are like you, just human beings like you. They pray late at night, meaning they're religious people. Again, an extra answer to the earlier question. But those people, once they are alone, they violate the rights of Allah. And we know that the most destructive, secretive sin of our time today is pornography. So if you don't want to fall into this trap, into this category, correct your behavior, reach out, and make it a starting point today, inshallah, to change that qadr, if it is your qadr. Change it now.